Hey guys, it's Mr. Haas here, and I want to talk today about gravity and friction. And I want to first talk to you about what it is, and then we are going to look at how it's going to help you build your structures that you are building in class with the Kiva planks. So it's Sunday here as I'm recording this, and I think about football. And every time I think about football and watching it, I think about all the forces that are acting on the players and the ball during the game. And that's where I kind of thought about talking today about the forces when we build stuff. So in class, you're going to begin to build with our Kiva planks. And they're similar to my son's blocks here. They're just a lot smaller, but the same principles apply. So we're not using glue, we're not using anything like that to hold them up. We're simply using the everyday forces. So there's two main forces that we deal with on an everyday basis, and that would be friction and gravity. So in the previous video you saw, you learned a little bit about gravity, where gravity is always pulling objects down. So if I take a block and I let go of it, it falls because gravity is pulling it down. When we start building, when I place a block up, we know that if we're not careful, we don't balance it right, that I could very easily have it fall down, and it falls because of gravity. So gravity, when we're building, is the force that we are working against, because gravity wants to pull everything down. So as we're building, we have to keep in mind this whole thing about gravity, that it's always trying to pull it down. So we are going to use the other force, which is friction, to help us out a little bit here, okay? So I want to teach you a little bit about the type of friction when it comes to building. So when we are building, okay, a lot of times we have some blocks like this, right? We have our tall blocks that we might build with. And alone, each of these blocks can very easily get knocked over. There's just a little bit of friction where they are touching the other surface. So that's what friction is. Friction is when you have two objects that touch each other, and that the force that stops them from just slipping and sliding is friction. So what we want to do is we want to increase the friction to help stabilize our structure. So one way to do that is to lay blocks like this across. And now what I've done is I'm using the weight of this block and where it touches, and it's starting to make these a little bit stronger, whereas they're less likely to fall over. Okay? Now, if I keep on building, notice this time that I turn them the other way, and now I've created friction between these two sides, and I've connected them all together, and now I have one big structure. So it is less likely that these pillars are going to move. Now, one cool thing about friction is how we can increase it. Now, if we are moving or sliding something, we can increase or decrease friction by changing the surface. However, we can't change the surface here because this is what we're building on. And with our blocks, you know, they're this wooden surface, so we can't change those. So one way to increase friction is to add weight. Okay, I want you to think about that. If you've ever slid something across the floor, okay, and you're sliding it, what is easier to slide? Something that is heavy or something that is light? And I'm guessing most of you said something that is light. And the reason that it's easier to slide something that's light across the floor is because there's less weight. And since there's less weight, there's less friction between whatever you're pushing and the floor. For this, we want to make sure that we are increasing the friction. So the more blocks that we place on top of our structure, the heavier it gets, and the more friction we have that acts like the glue that keeps it together. So as we are building our structures, I want you to keep that in mind with friction, okay? As we build it up, as we put blocks on top of blocks and we start to build these crisscross patterns, the friction is what's going to hold it together and stop it from moving and falling. So there still is some movement, but if I tried to do that with one of these blocks and I gave it a little poke, it would fall right over. If I do that with this block, doesn't fall over, because I've added weight, which has increased the friction. So hopefully you can use this in class when we're building our structures with our Kiva planks. So this should be helpful. So hopefully you did your homework and you think about this as you are working in class. I look forward to seeing what you guys can design. Have a great day.